This is ASMR with Halsey. Yes. Okay.
Can we do the whole show like that?
Yeah, right.
I love ASMR.
This is your very calm morning with Halsey.
Halsey, he is on the morning mashup. We're so excited to see you. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is, you've got a lot going on these days.
I know. It's great.
Semi-obsessed with Ego. Okay, actually full-blown obsessed with Ego.
Right.
I mean, that first listen, it's just a banger.
Thank
the
you.
video is fun and so creative.
Thank
Obviously,
you so much.
a big fan of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed on the video, there's a couple different things that I noticed because you did a print interview where they credited the stylist, the hair person, the photographer, and then the makeup artist was you.
Yeah.
And then I watched the video for Ego, and the writer and director is you.
Yeah.
So you hang on to a lot of these creative things. How do you decide what it is you're going to do that day or what you're going to let somebody else handle?
It depends how fiercely attached to it I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm like, oh gosh, like I really want this to go a certain way.
Right.
I always do my own makeup, but that's mostly just because I don't like someone touching my face.
Oh, so you're
Like-
really good at it.
Oh, thank you.
You
Yeah, no,
are.
I love doing it, and like especially when I'm going on stage, that kind of thing. It's like I get that hour or whatever it is where I'm getting ready, and I just get to be alone. You know, it's like hard sometimes when you have people flying around all over touching you, and you're like, just give me a second, and then you have to go out on stage, and it's like whiplash.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of get to like. It's like I'm putting on my like war paint.
This
you know what I
literally just
mean?
happened in this room.
Yeah.
Yes,
Literally,
Right.
just saw it.
Speaking about happening in this room, we were talking behind the scenes. You know, it's 10 years ago that we first met you.
Oh my god.
yeah.
I have
Goosebumps.
I know, right?
I
Right?
mean,
I remember
happens.
the autograph you signed on the wall is still there.
Yes.
Yeah, right in
10
the
years
hallway.
ago. I was actually, it's funny. That's the first autograph I ever signed.
It's just,
It's amazing. It's I was on the spot and they were like, "Can you sign the wall?" And I was like, "Sign what?"
so do you still sign everything that way?
I do, yeah, I do. I was like, I have to come up with an autograph, and then in that moment, 17 is my lucky number. It's in all my work, and
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna make the H a 17. And I still sign that way. It's crazy.
I love it. I also love how with this album, The Great Impersonator, which is out at the end of October 25th, I'm loving all the the eras, like the 70s, 80s, 90s, all the
Yeah.
different versions of you. And in the trailer for the album, you can see you sort of struggling with identity. And I feel like most artists probably have times during their career in life where they struggle with their identity because you're one person to the world and another person. Can you talk a little bit about that and what
Yeah.
that's been like for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's a combination of things, right? It's like there's all these little rites of passage you go through in life where you have to really take a look at who you are, and a lot of them hit me at the same time. So it's almost 10 years to the day. No, not to the day. Sorry, it's almost 10 years to the day since I met you guys. It's almost 10 years since I put out my first album, Badlands,
Yeah.
and so I was 19. I was about to turn 20. And I'm 29 right now, and I'm about to turn 30. So the decade from 20 to 30 for me is kind of it's a clean decade that just encapsulates my entire career. So I'm about to turn 30. That's already like, who am I?
I know. It's
You
a
know?
big one. It's a biggie.
I had a baby. I became a new mom,
Yeah.
and that's who am I? And then I got really sick and my whole life changed. And, I was being confronted with all these really scary questions and really scary realities. And that really changes a person. Then I became a single mom. That changes you too. And then I was like, oh, I have to put out my 5th album. So it was just like all these things happened at the same time. It was like I was being yanked in all these different directions. Everyone was like, who are you? Who are you going to be? Who are you going to be? Who are you? And I was like, I don't know. I think when I was 19 and I was writing Badlands, I set all these goals for myself, and then I worked so laser vision towards them for 10 years, but I never stopped to check back in and go, hey, do you still have the same goals you had when you were 19?
Yeah.
Because they might be different now. And I think that part of the process with writing this album was checking back in and being like, okay, you made your 10-year plan.
Right.
It's over now. What does that mean?
Next.
What's the next chapter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well,
So
everyone, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so it was just that, yeah.
Everyone who comes in leaves a question for the next person. The one that was left for you is actually very relevant to
Oh,
what you're saying right
really?
now. So we'll just.
I'm Joey Chestnut, world champion eater, and I'm wondering, does your motivation change? How do you stay motivated?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think my motivation changes. I think that I always kind of need a mountain to climb. That's been like a really important thing for me.
Yeah.
It's like, I get made fun of sometimes, like by people on my team or like my friends, because I still very much think that I'm like I'm the underdog.
Yeah.
And I gotta prove it. And they're like, no, you're
honey,
not.
Not anymore.
But I just need a mountain to climb where I'm just like, I need to prove to all those people that I'm.
You did.
And they're like, you're good, dude. And so I think that's, having a mountain to climb is definitely part of it. That's actually, ties into what we were talking about before, which is why I take on new jobs sometimes. It's like with the Ego music video, getting to write and direct it, it keeps it fresh. It keeps it interesting, It's like a new challenge, a new way to test myself, a new way to be like, how far can I stretch my creative muscles, And that's part of the motivation, I think.
We got a lot of listeners that want to write into or
Yes.
have questions,
Oh,
and
yeah,
Nicole
yeah.
has one.
Okay, so this one's from Lexi in Boston. What is it like performing live again after you had to cut the Manic tour due to COVID? I mean, that
my
had to have been
gosh.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. It was super
I
heartbreaking.
mean, the world was heartbroken just in
Yeah.
general because of life, but
Yeah, I think that, I was super bummed to have to cut that tour. Obviously, everybody's tours got canceled.
Yeah.
Everything got canceled. But it was in that time that I decided to take that time and have my son, So I'm in a way I'm grateful, because I got to have this other insane opportunity.
yes, you did.
But now being back on stage, it's just like I don't ever take it for granted, because it's like performing is genuinely my favorite part of what I do.
Yeah.
Like I love writing albums, but it's kind of like stressful, like it's a lot of nights up in the studio, like you're trying to break codes and figure out problems. You're like, oh, I gotta get this chorus right, or like the guitar's not good. It's just like it's so high energy, but it always feels like there's problems. And so I love it. But then getting on stage is just like, people ask me all the time, they're like, do you train? Do you work out? Do you, like, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't do anything. I get up there and I just feel like it's where I was born to be. I just become the best version of myself every time I step on a stage, and it makes me proud of myself. You do a 2.5-hour show, you come off stage, you're like, I did that, and you're like, my body is incredible, and like I am capable of such amazing things, and it makes me feel so good about myself. And I'm sure that has to do with the significant release of
Adrenaline.
Yeah, I'm like, it's so weird. It makes me feel so good about
awesome.
myself. It's like, yeah, dude, you just went skydiving.
We're at Morning Mashup on Instagram, and Halsey's here. You talked about writing Badlands when you were 19, and now being where you are now, going back and checking on yourself. Is there a lyric or something you wrote then that you're like, please don't hold me to that anymore? You hear it and you're like, I do not feel that way anymore?
The entirety of New Americana. What are you talking about? Yeah, of course. I love New Americana. I love New Americana like I love that terrible school photo of me where I have no teeth and I have giant glasses. You know what I mean? Like it's endearing, and I love it. And I think that I was really brave, and I had a lot to say, but it's definitely the most broad of all of my songs.
Okay.
And I think that since then, the lesson I've learned in songwriting is I just keep it small.
Okay.
I keep it close to what I know and what
Okay.
I've lived and what I've experienced. And I
Okay.
think that my songwriting has improved because of that. Yeah.
Well, now, as you mentioned, you've evolved. I mean, what are you going to be 30, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's something. You're a mother now,
Mhm.
right? Your son just turned 3, I believe.
Yes,
right?
he did.
Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to know how you came up with the name Ender.
Oh,
Such a cool name.
Well, so it's pretty nerdy reference. It's a reference to this book turned movie called Ender's Game,
Okay.
and I'm really into sci-fi. So my son's full name is Ender Ridley, and
So cool.
Ridley Scott,
Yeah.
Right,
is
right.
the middle name, and so he's got this like super sci-fi protagonist main character name. But his father is Turkish, and the name Ender in Turkish means rare.
Okay.
Aw,
And
yeah.
he was at that point, that experience was just so rare and so special to me, and I wanted his name to have like a little bit of a meaning. I also wanted a cool name,
Yeah.
but
You
that
did.
also sounded like a regular name.
Yeah, you did it.
because like Ender, Xander, like
Yeah,
it just it doesn't feel super crazy, because I could have named him like bookshelf or
Yeah.
something. You know? Because people be doing that. You know?
Now,
So,
I understand he's also into Legos, right?
yeah.
Have you stepped on one yet?
Yeah, I have a lifesaver because there's no pain like
No.
stepping on a freaking
No.
Lego.
Constantly.
Slippers, girl. Slippers,
know.
Crocs, necessary.
I know. I have to remind myself, especially because he travels with me all the time. So like our number one hotel room activity is Legos. You
Nice.
know, we could build Legos forever. We were just in London and I took him to the Lego store and he picked out this giant excavator Lego set. And I was like, yeah, you can get that. And then we got home and I was like, oh, I have to build it. He's
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
He's 3 years old. I have to build it. And so I sat there. He got bored with it. Didn't even care. I'm sitting there. They're coming in. They're like, hey, Ash, you have an interview. We're like, we have to talk to you. You have a meeting. I'm like,
I'm excavating. I need excavating right now.
I'm like, I have to manually assemble all 147 of the tracks on this tread. Okay? There's caterpillar tracks. You don't understand. Like, so yeah. And also, the craziest thing about kids, though, is that he steps on them all the time and it doesn't even phase him.
They're rubber.
Yeah, you're made of jelly, dude.
It's weird.
It's crazy.
What do you find yourself saying the most in a day besides no? Like I feel like I say don't or stop. That's like I say that easily 20 times a day.
Oh, you know what? That's hard. I think that well, he's 3, right? So
Right.
I'm at the age with him right now where I'm trying to show him that sometimes we can have a feeling and that feeling might not be about what we think it's about. You know what I mean? So like if he's getting like really upset about something, like he got really upset the other day because he asked for a bagel with cream cheese and jelly. And then I had the audacity to bring him a bagel with cream cheese and jelly.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the audacity,
That's
right?
not what he asked for.
And he was like, I wanted a bagel with cream cheese and jelly. And I was like, yeah, what? And he just got so upset. He's crying, you know what I mean? And then I sat him down and I was like, hey, buddy, I was like, sometimes we have a lot of feelings, but they're not about what we think they're about. I was like, why do you think you're upset? And he was like, you know, oh, because of the bagel. I wanted this bagel. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, but what else is going on? I was like, is mommy getting ready for work? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, does that mean mommy's going to leave? And he was like, yeah. I said, so maybe we're not upset about the bagel. We're upset because mommy's leaving. So one of the things I've been saying to him a lot lately is, what do we think that feeling is?
I like
You know,
that.
so I'm saying that a lot during the day. I told him too, I was like, you know, mommy was pouring a drink in the kitchen and spilled it. And mommy got very upset. And then mommy had to check in with herself
Yes.
and be like, is this about spilling the drink? Spoiler alert, it was not. You know? So processing my own feelings too through him.
I love that you're like you'll do the Legos with him because which is super creative and you know and you loving to write and direct, super creative. And then during like the pandemic, I know you kind of got into building miniature doll houses.
Yeah, I did.
And like I'll never forget you like painting while performing on SNL. Like you're so artistic. Is there anything like artsy that you got into or that we don't know that you also do on the side? That's not just the singing and the painting and the doll housing and the Legoing.
I mean, I just kind of love all types of art, you know? Like I went through a phase where I got really into collaging and I opened this PO box and I let fans write all these letters and then I would write them back, but I wouldn't just write them back. I would make like these custom like hand cut collages like based on what they wrote to me in their letter, you know, and send it back. And it was a really cool way of connecting with them, especially when I was sick because I wasn't prepared to be online. I just wasn't in a place to be like, you know, on the internet talking to fans. So I just took it back old school and I was like, write me a letter and I'll write you a letter back. And so then all those days that I was home, I wasn't feeling well, couldn't leave the house, I could sit and make these little collages, you know?
I was just sort of reading something how we get rid of boredom. There's so much technology around us. Nobody ever wants to be bored. But boredom is what brings that creativity out. That when you're sitting there with nothing to do, you start building doll houses. And you never thought you would have done that before.
Yeah, you look around the room and you go, what can I do? I remember at one point I started painting candles. I would get these like really tall candles and I would paint these like really intricate, like I made one for Ender. It's like all these like little Peter Rabbit characters. I'll get you guys a picture of it. And it's like, it was so detailed. It was like painting a Fabergé egg. And like I would just sit there with this little brush and it was just because I was bored and saw candles and knew I had paint and I was like, as long as no one ever lights this,
we're good.
It should be. We should be okay. You know?
Stan, I think you have a question for another.
The texts are coming in. We got one from Lacey in Maine. She wants to know what's the one track. You had 18 new tracks on the album.
Oh yeah.
What's the one track that almost didn't make it but was added at the last minute?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Huh. Well, there's a couple that didn't make it that I'm adamant will come out. You know what I mean? Because I'm always that way where stuff gets on the chopping block towards the end and I'm so emotionally attached to it.
They're your
and I'm
babies.
like,
Yes.
I'm like, can we just put it out? Like deluxe edition, please? Like, and it's like I would write a 30-track album if I could, but they end up getting cut for time usually, 18 tracks is already a lot, especially in 2024.
Right.
But I would say that the one song that maybe almost didn't make it, ooh, I'm about to give away a song title.
Do it.
Is the song called Arsonist. It had a couple different iterations and it wasn't sounding quite the way I wanted it to. And I went in one night with Michael Uzi, who was a producer across most of the record, and he's incredible. He's worked with Frank Ocean, SZA, Beyonce, like he's amazing. And I walked in with him one night and we redid the entire song top to bottom, new vocals, everything in like 30 minutes because we were just trying out an exercise with it. And it ended up being so good that after months of working on this song, this version we made in 30 minutes is the one that ended up on the record.
Wow.
And now it's one of my favorites.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got the video for Ego last week.
Yes.
The Great Impersonator comes out next month. Halsey is on the morning mashup right now. We're very excited. And there's one thing that I want to know that you know, obviously music comes from struggle. It comes from the speed bumps in your life and the drama. And I probably know your answer, but I just want to hear it from you. Have you ever thought about like, if I had to choose one, the music or the drama and the speed bumps, like which one I would want to pick if I had to get rid of one?
Yeah, you know what? I did think about that a lot, actually. I've been thinking about that for probably my whole career because I think that I've tried to challenge myself to write happy songs. And not all my songs are sad, but I would say that, they're not all very happy, they're all ask pretty tough questions sometimes. And I was like, do you think I could write something happy? I thought about it when I was just about the first time around I was thinking about starting this album, my 5th album. And I was home and I was like, I have my baby. And at that time I was with my partner at the time and we were living in this like cute little house and we had this garden and like, I was like, everything's so great. And then this sense of doom just came over me and I was like, what am I going to write about? Oh my God, what's going to happen? And then, as if the universe answered my call, it was like immediately after that I got sick. I became a single mom. It was like all this stuff started flooding in. I remember sitting in my room one night and just kind of like looking up at the ceiling and I started laughing. If you could have saw me, you would have thought I was crazy. I was just laying there in dead silence, like staring at the ceiling, and I just started going, oh my God. Because the thought I was having to myself was, in that moment, I was like, oh, the universe went, you want some stuff to write about?
Here it is.
You want some new stuff you've never experienced before to write about? We're going to give it to you tenfold. And then I had so much, and I was like, where do I even start now with unpacking all of this? I think that I'm grateful for sort of those, not transgressions, but those challenges along the way. But more than that, I'm just grateful for music. I think that the challenges make the music better, in a way.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird to say. But at the end of the day, the music's more important because without it, I couldn't get through those challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've talked about your partner with Ender, he's his father, and seems like you have a new partner, and he seems like he is like smitten kitten, and I can't, like, he's just like posting how proud he is of you.
Abby's my biggest fan.
Georgia is just the cutest, and he seems so sweet. Has he been through your process of writing this album? How is he with Ender?
He's the best. It was really funny, meeting someone in such a unique time of my life. It was like, I've been dating since I was like a teenager, and then all of a sudden I'm dating as a single mom, and I'm dating as a person who has, a lifetime illness, something that's not just going to go away. So I have to be really forthcoming about it when I meet people. And so I was just like, I was really nervous, and I've been saying this for a while, but I'm so grateful that as I took that first step kind of back into putting myself out into like the dating pool or whatever, which I actually wasn't really trying to do. It kind of just happened with him.
Right.
But I'm so glad it was him because he's the most like gracious, compassionate, like well-adjusted, like loving person. And I can't imagine anyone like being better to receive me in the state that I was in. He gave me so much space to just like grow and to heal. He accepted me exactly as I am. He's, you know, he's incredible. And I owe a lot of why I'm, you know, back out here like feeling great and like, you know, feeling positive and wanting to have fun. You know, I owe a lot of it to him. Yeah.
October 25th, The Great Impersonator. We cannot wait for it.
So excited.
Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me
We love
again.
you, girlie.
Love you, Halsey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love you guys.